So, hello, good morning. This would be our first video. And in this channel, we will be talking mainly about acute dialysis nurse, mainly about dialysis, hemodialysis, and peritoneal dialysis. So, mostly educational lectures, and I'll be sharing some experiences as well and some tips. And today, it's our first video. So, this is your acute dialysis nurse. So my background, I've been an acute dialysis nurse for 6 years. So I've been working mainly in the hospitals, and so for acute dialysis nurse, they work in the hospital. It can be 1:1 or 2:1 if you have a treatment room. And I've been working here in California, USA, for 6 years as an acute dialysis nurse. And I love being an acute dialysis nurse because I love the flexibility of working independently. But as working independently while working with the team involved with the care of the patient in the hospital. I love to travel, so I go from different hospitals, 7 hospitals, depends where they need help. And yeah, we care for mostly sick people, but some are stable. So our first topic for for today's video is history of dialysis. So first we have Thomas Graham. Thomas Graham, he's a chemical professor at Glasgow, Scotland. So the idea of selective diffusion was his work. So he came up with a law of diffusion of gases. So that's called the Graham's law. So Graham's law is called the law of diffusion of gases, wherein the term selective diffusion or a separation of substances across a semi-permeable membrane was developed. And then it was later called the term dialysis. So this one is a law of diffusion. Now in dialysis, remember if for the principle of dialysis, to clean the blood is we use the principle of diffusion, wherein the solutes move from area of higher concentration to a area of lower concentration. So next, we have three individuals named John Abel, Leonard Rountree, Bernard Turner. So these guys, they built the vivid diffusion apparatus to remove blood toxins in 1913. They used the anticoagulant called the Hirudin. So Hirudin, that's the anticoagulant they used that time, which was extracted from leeches. But it was never used on humans because it's very toxic. So next, in 1924, we have George Haas. He is a German physician, and he was the first to dialyze. So he was the first to dialyze human. In 1928, heparin was introduced by Dr. William Henry Howell in Johns Hopkins Hospital. But heparin, it was discovered by an individual named J. McLean. So in 1943, Dr. William J. Kolff created the first dialyzer for humans. So he was a Dutch physician, and the first dialyzer was called the rotating drum dialyzer, which was made of cellophane. So he is the father of dialysis, Dr. William J. Kolff. Okay, so moving on, we have here Dr. Peter Kramer in 1977. So he was the first to describe CRRT, or continuous renal replacement therapy. Next is Dr. George Kinton and Dr. Belding Scribner in 1960. So they were the ones who introduced external AV shunt, uh, and that's when the chronic hemodialysis started. So it's made up of Teflon. They connect one end to artery and one end to venous. And then next is Dr. Belding Scribner and Dr. John Merrill in 1964. They initiated the home hemodialysis. Dr. Michael Brescia and Dr. James Simino in 1966. They were the ones who created the EV fistula and became the premier or the primary vascular access. In 1972, so this is in the US, President Richard Nixon signed the Social Security Amendment of 1972. This extended the Medicare coverage to those requiring renal replacement therapy. So originally, the ages is less than 65 years old to qualify for free coverage. But they revised it and then they made it to more than 65 years old. And the funds that are paid from these services, hemodialysis services, are federally funded. So the funds comes from the federal. So at that time, after this amendment, the clinics across the United States proliferated. So there's a lot of dialysis clinics that starts to develop. Next is Dr. Joseph Murray in 1954. So he did the first successful transplant on identical twins. In 1989, Ipugen was approved by the FDA. So as we all know, Ipugen is a very expensive drug. And we will just discuss Ipugen later on as we go along with the lecture. In 1997, National Kidney Foundation first published the Kidoki guidelines. Bundled payment system. So this is for the clinics. So all of these services are paid by the federal. These are costs of dialysis treatment, labor, supplies, all dialysis labs, all injectable meds, all iron and vitamin D supplementation. So they pay them through performance system. So if they are underperformed, if they underperform in anemia management, epogen utilization and urea clearance or URR, they will be penalized for 2% in reimbursement. So that's it. We're all done with our history, dialysis history. And I'll see you again in our next topic. So again, this is your acute dialysis nurse. Have a good day.